And now, live in studio, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
Welcome in. This is the Consumer Quarterback Show with Brandon Rhymes. I'm not Brandon Rhymes. It's a backup quarterback in the chair today, James DeJerome. As always, the show is committed to bringing you that knowledge that's going to empower you and make you a more informed consumer and make better decisions out there in the marketplace. We've got a great team to help me do that today. In addition to our guests, our partners on this program, we've got our team behind the scenes. Jose's back there on the audio board for us, keeping us sounding great for all your listeners on AM 1380, 5 p.m. every day. And of course, Rob is our tech from WeBeam. All you TV viewers watching the program on whether it's Roku, Fire, Apple TV, or WeBeam itself, that's who's keeping us on the World Wide Web, Rob over there. And of course, we've assembled a group of partners on the show that are the backbone of the whole thing. And you know, the idea here is that we're going to give you some knowledge. We want you to be more informed and make better decisions. And to that end, I've assembled some folks in studio today. Dr. Doug Arvanitis has joined us again, Pro Health. How you doing, Doc?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Now, you've had some, of course, Dr. Arvanitis knows everything about sports injuries and whatnot, but now there's a new patient over there. You're your own patient this time.
That's me. This time I hurt myself, so we had to work on me.
So we got a story for you about rehab from a guy who knows everything about both sides of it.
That's true.
And again, also in studio today, Michelle Frome. Michelle has a bunch of things going on. I'm learning everything about Michelle today. In addition to being Shark Branding Solutions, we've got this Tampa Bay Fear Factor. Very intriguing concept to me. I'm not sure I see you actually following through with this. So far, we've had a lot of talk about it. Tell me a little bit more about this. Well, first of all, you've also brought a guest. Tell us who your guest is today.
So my guest today is Taylor Precourt. She's the CEO of Whole Health. And
okay, welcome, Taylor.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
She is also competing against me in a challenge with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society here in the Tampa Bay area. They have the traditional Man-Woman of the Year competition where they pick out some of the best in Tampa Bay and they raise the money, and it's men against women. Whoever raises the most amount of money wins.
Right.
I was a candidate in, 2015, I want to say. And then after that, I've been on the executive leadership committee to help identify candidates that would be really good for raising money for the area. What's great with LLS is that for the Suncoast area, not only do they fund research that goes for anyone with blood cancer, but they're able to take that research and those treatments and use that for other types of cancer that are out there too. So I've been very involved because a lot of the treatments that they have created initially for blood cancers has been treating and saving my family's life over the past few years.
So a great cause. When you get a chance, again, the whole concept behind the show is we want to do something positive. And this is why we assemble these folks together. We're going to give you some information about how you can help. Is there a possibility for folks out there to get involved in the Tampa Bay Fear Factor?
Yes. So what we did is fundraising is hard, as we all know. And a lot of people, they like to get something in exchange for their donation. So what we've decided is Taylor and myself have competed against each other, even though we're on the same team. And we are willing to face our fears in exchange for donations. And so we created TampaBayFearFactor.com. I am willing.
This was your brainchild.
This was it. So here you go. You can see it online. And Taylor, I've convinced her to go and be willing to get a box of spiders dumped in her hair in exchange for donations.
Terrifying.
I am willing to get a box of live snakes dumped on me. So people can see that. So we're willing to do any of our corporate sponsors. We're going to wear our T-shirts, have their logo on there, and you can kind of, people can get exposure in addition to all the other exposure because this is a big charity event that's going on in Tampa Bay.
So you came up with the idea for Taylor's punishment? Is that what happened?
I did, actually. She told me that she was scared of spiders, and initially that's what did it. My 7-year-old daughter came up with the idea for mine, which has been great. I think she secretly hates me.
Well, I see a video opportunity. All you viewers of the show on the website,
Yes.
We're going to have some video for you soon from these ladies. All right, let's get back to Dr. Doug. I want to give you a chance to tell us a little bit about your own story, your own knee rehab, how'd you do?
Well, after hearing what I just heard, I'm kind of rather go through the meniscus surgery that I did than having spiders poured on me. And
I'm with you. I think I'm with you, Doc.
Basically, I've done sports my entire life, and within the last month or so, I hurt my left knee playing one of my sports in a tournament, and I ended up having a torn meniscus with a displaced fragment.
Now, hold on. Being that you're in the field, did you immediately go up torn meniscus? Or did you subtly, pain laid the next day? Tell me how you came to it.
Well, when I first did it, I said a few other words than that, but because I was right in the middle of playing, and so
you knew.
I knew something was happening.
Yeah.
So I waited a few days just to make sure, and then I went and had the MRI. And when I couldn't walk anymore, I had to get the MRI. So once we found out what it was, then I called my orthopedic surgeon, and he scheduled me for 2 weeks out because he was on vacation, and that wasn't fun. But it wasn't bad because a couple things. Number one, that I always tell my patients, you have to have a positive mental attitude about this, and that's what this show's about.
Sure.
So whenever any of my patients ask me about it, or anybody, I said, it's just a little meniscus cleanup. I'll be fine. I'll be back. I'll have it done on Thursday. I'll be back in the office on Monday. So I was already getting my brain thinking that way, and that's the way it happened. So I had the surgery on Thursday, and I was back in my office on Monday. On top of that, my wife makes this incredible anti-inflammatory drink out of lemon, pineapple. She puts in there turmeric and ginger, and she boils it for 30 minutes, lets it simmer for 4 hours, and it's an anti-inflammatory. So I take a 10-ounce drink a day, and I was walking around for 2 weeks before the surgery with virtually no pain.
Branding
No
opportunity.
I know, right? I'm just thinking like you should market that.
That's what I told her.
See, constantly marketing.
on your Instagram.
As nice as my wife is, she just said, look, I'll give everybody the recipe. So it's okay. You guys can have it. I'll get it to you. But it really worked, and it took out all that inflammation in there. And on top of that, knowing I'm going to have the surgery, then I did my pre-rehab prior to the surgery, and I went to the gym, and I made sure I did certain exercises and everything. So the day of the surgery, it was very easy. I went in there. I was at the surgery center probably 3 hours for a 15-minute procedure. And they had 2 little incisions. They got in there, they cut that little fragment out, got out of there.
No, you a good patient? Be honest.
I'm a great patient.
Everyone always says that. And then there's lots of wiggling and
No
lollipop needed or anything?
No, they put you out, they give you a little propofol, so you're out for those 15, 20 minutes.
Right.
And I woke up, then my wife, the only pain medication I took was 1 ibuprofen, which was forced on me at the surgery center by my wife. I think she enjoyed that, just stuffing it down my mouth. But that was it. I was okay after that. Again, the positive mental attitude, I'm going to be fine and everything.
Right.
On the way home from the surgery center, we stopped and had lunch. I have a funny picture of that. I'm just smiling away at the table. So I had a great lunch, and then I got home, went upstairs, and that's when the icing started and things like that. So I was a really good patient there. I did exactly what I was supposed to do the first 2 days. He wanted me to walk on it a little bit as fast as I could, and keep icing it every 20 minutes or so.
Now, the concept of go as able, I've heard that a lot from guys in physical. If you can do it, it's good to do it. You got to push yourself a little bit.
It is. And the more aggressive you can be with that, the faster you get back. So, for example, with me, I've had meniscus surgeries in the past, way back before I had it with Dr. McLaren. And I was walking fantastic 3 days after the surgery. But between having the positive mental attitude, between the anti-inflammatory drink, between his skill, he's amazing, absolutely amazing. And same gentleman who did my shoulder. And doing the right things that weekend between the icing, and then I also have a class 4 laser that we talked about before in the past. And we did that on Saturday and Sunday 3 times a day. Takes out all the inflammation, there was no pain whatsoever.
Right.
And I was back walking like it was nothing. So the more aggressive you can be with that, within reason,
right,
the faster you'll get back, and there's less scar tissue and adhesions and all that.
I think as a layperson, I always think that the average folks out there are not pushing themselves. You deal with athletes a lot. You've probably got the opposite in effect, where you better have to slow them down a little bit. Right. They're too excited to get back out there, and they can re-injure.
Sometimes we have to slow them down.
So I know we work with athletes a lot in the Bay Area. You had a great story last time about a young man who had an issue, and you found a holistic solution. There was something, an issue with him, and it was leading to another symptom. So he had a symptom, and you said, let's examine the whole body and talk to him a little bit and find out what's going on with him. It's not always as simple as this hurts and examining that body part.
That's correct. And that's one of the things that makes us different is we don't just look at the pain and where it's at, and that's important, but at the same time, I want to look at you from head to toe. I want to see everything that's going on. I want to know your background, your history, everything. And then at that point, we can do the exam and then I can kind of put things together and piece it all together and find out what's going on.
Do you find patients oftentimes don't see that because they know what happened? I got hit by a car, doc. That's what happened. And you say, well, let's go into a little further detail about exactly what happened and how you feel.
Well, if it was that black and white, you got hit by a car, and that's probably what happened.
Right.
But all these athletes, I've got to go back 5, 6, 7, 8 years into their college, into their high school careers, and find out exactly what's happened to them and what they haven't had done, and then try to fix it from there.
I used to find a lot of guys would hide. They don't want you to know. They stay out of the training room for fear of you telling some scout or somebody, hey, this kid's got a habitual issue. So a lot of times they're trying to just get through as best they can and figure out a way on their own to cope with it. You got to kind of notice that if you can.
That's a big component of it right now, because I see NFL players from multiple teams and the Buccaneers, and they won't tell the training staff what's going on with them, in fear, exactly as you say. There's 1,000 guys waiting to take their position. So they don't want any history of any injuries, but they'll come to me and tell me everything, because my records don't go anywhere but my office.
Right. That's a critical factor here. We visited a little bit about that before the show. Folks are seeking that knowledge. This is big business, athletes and sports. If I'm an owner, a team owner, a scout, this information that because you're doing that intimate physical exam on the kid, that's the kind of thing that is prized information in this world. So the ability for them to trust you, hey, if I go to Dr. Arvanitis, that's between he and I. And then no one else is going to find out what my medical history is in terms of my physical damage, if there's any to speak of.
And that's true. That's one of our greatest things, is we will not divulge any information to any. They have to subpoena my records to get them.
And I'm sure scouts will say, hey, you had this, or they want to know the complete history of the kid and how he handled pain. We used to get questions all the time about pain tolerance and what kind of, you can't predict that kind of thing.
Right. Everyone's different. Every situation is different.
All right. That's the kind of information you can get from Dr. Doug Arvanitis, Pro Health. Doc, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Either call the office at 813-304-2120, or you can go to our website, and there's a link there to go ahead and email me.
All right, we're going to come back, and when we come back, we're going to talk with Michelle and Taylor. We got all kinds of stories about what I think the fear factor should be. I got some ideas that we're going to go into.
All right.
Come back, check us out, Consumer Quarterback Show, consumerqb.com.
Hey everybody, I'm Forbes Riley, celebrity TV fitness host and creator of The Spin Gym. I'm here today with Brandon Rhymes, and you're listening to the Consumer Quarterback Show. Great ways to get happy, healthy, and wealthy.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com.
This is the Cannabis Podcast, powered by TrueLeave on Radio Influence. It's an inside look and the scientific facts in and around the world of medical cannabis. Now, here is your host, Ian Beckles.
He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. listening to the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. Online at consumerqb.com.
Welcome back. This is the Consumer Quarterback Show with Brandon Rhymes. I'm the backup quarterback, James DeJerome, the show producer, sitting in for Brandon today. We've got Dr. Doug Arvanitis from Pro Health. He told us a little bit about his own personal injury and recovery from that, and it shows you out there that you got to be ready to be a patient, whether you're a doctor or a patient. You got to be ready to stand a little bit of pain to get a little bit of progress. So we talked about go as able and being able to push your tolerance a little bit. What about when it comes to pushing your tolerance in the world of fear? So I've got Michelle and Taylor here, and they've got this Tampa Bay fear factor. We talked a little about it in the open. We're going to talk a little bit more about it, and I want to hear how you came up with these ideas. I know your daughter, is that what you said helped?
She did. She
Okay.
came up with the idea, but I've been raising money for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society for the last 3 years because
Okay.
they have greatly affected with the they've affected my family personally when it comes to the research with the drugs and treatments that have kept my family alive in particular, but also when it comes to the local, anybody that's affected with blood cancer can tap into the local chapters and get money for co-pays, for hotel stays, gas cards,
So this is
etc.
helping a lot of folks out there.
A lot of people. And so the money that is raised in this area, a massive portion, the people that are in this area can go and tap into that. So that's what started the whole thing. So last year, after begging for money from my friends and family,
Right.
I did this thing where I said in the next 5 hours, however many donations I get, I'll get a pie in the face on Facebook Live. Let me tell you, I must anger a lot of people because
Here come the results.
we raised $2,000 in a few hours just to get a pie in my face. So we said, all right, well, let's take this year, let's make fundraising a little bit more fun and take it up a notch. So I'm willing to get a box of live snakes dumped on me. Taylor's willing to get a box of spiders dumped on her. So it's whoever raises the most amount of money until I think it's May 18th.
May 18th,
We'll go and get that. So we're taking corporate sponsors. We're also taking regular donations. So anybody that I have ever aggravated or gotten on their nerves, please
Well, what a
donate.
great cause and a great opportunity for folks out
Thank
there.
you. Yes.
It is. I personally would like everybody to go ahead and vote for Michelle Frome. Send her as many donations as possible.
Thank you. I am very competitive, but I do not want to win this challenge. So I've actually taken to the internet and I'm going to post really bad things about Taylor just so people
también. I'll
get
do the
angry
same.
with her and donate to her campaign.
Man, what a great idea. I know this was a hit as soon as you thought of it. What was kicked around? I'm interested in knowing what didn't make the cut, because this one got you guys to put spiders and snakes. I can't imagine what suggestions you said that's too far.
We had a few that were way too far that I would not name on air. But we had a few things where, well, like I said, one of the candidates willing to eat a bug salad. The reason why I turned that down, and my daughter did come up with the idea, is I don't want to be the person known as throwing up on TV, so I didn't do that. But the scary clowns has been one.
Yeah.
Sleeping in a casket was one of the things that was, thought about. Then snakes dumped into the casket that you have to lay in the whole time. So that's probably what's going to happen next year. So.
I had a coach talk about, coaches get a little crazy, and I was a kid. This was youth football, and he took us to the beach at night and played this theme, the Jaws theme, on a big loud radio while we all sat. And you'd be amazed at how scared all of a sudden.
It is scary.
It took about 30 seconds for me to get
And I'm
scared.
pretty sure that there's like a shark somewhere in the pool. As long as my eyes are closed, I can think that there's a shark. But when we were coming up with the idea of fear factor, I think one of the biggest reasons why we went that direction is both Michelle and I, our moms, we're both entrepreneurs. We're building businesses, and we are mentors in the community, strong networkers, and we found that we don't have all of this time to reach into our network and call everybody individually and ask them for donations. So we said, we can get these corporate sponsors, but let's, as Michelle mentioned, let's give them something back. And we thought that Fear Factor was definitely a very popular show, and we believe in this cause. So facing our fear is nothing if we can save lives.
Great concept, and it kind of goes right along with the whole marketing thing. You guys are on top of that as well, so I'm sure this is bringing together a few different aspects of your job.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. With our company being behind it, because we do have a full service marketing agency with us, kind of being behind the whole concept and working together with it. That has gotten a lot of publicity for our company. I mean, we've always done with our agency, we've always thought outside the box and done really different things to make our clients stand out. So this just fits right into what we do. So it's just a very natural thing, and it works out great for our
I like it.
agency.
Now, also, you were telling me a little bit about mommy sharks. Tell me about mommy sharks. Wait till you hear this.
So what happened with Mommy Sharks is last year we started our agency, it's Shark Branding Solutions, and it was my partner at a previous advertising agency. We had worked together, and she and I just had great camaraderie. And then I took a break from the business, and then came back and told her that I wanted to go back into consulting and marketing and advertising consulting, and she did too. And neither one of us wanted to compete against each other, so we said, why not just have our own agency? And within a week, before we even had our own bank account, we already had someone white labeling our services. We're trying to onboard 250 clients.
Wow.
It was insane. So in addition to all of that, we exploded. But we also had both of our parents died from cancer within a week of each other. My business partner and I. My mom went through a stroke. I had 2 massive surgeries. It was, if there could be anything that went wrong within a year of starting your own company, that was it. And what we wanted to do was start the Mommy Sharks, which is a behind the scenes of what it really takes. So you have your regular agency, your regular company, and here's all the pretty things that everybody sees, but what's those things that happen to make those things happen? So we wanted to add humor and add also the whole point of what helps us tick. So I might get 2.5 hours of sleep because my kids don't sleep,
Right.
but I have this amazing concealer that shows and makes it look like I've slept for years. So
The trade secrets, folks.
so it's trade secrets. It's how people can go and take their small businesses. It's really kind of before they have funding and they want to look like a really big legitimate company. We teach them on the mommysharks.com how to do that before they've actually made it really big. So that's kind of what we've been doing. Is we're an advocate and kind of a resource area for people to go and just see the humorous side of raising kids, especially as single moms, while you're trying to run a successful marketing agency, which is also your own little baby that has its own catastrophe.
Right.
And we just decided to make light of it.
Really awesome concept, and what it plays into, and when I think of it, is the advent of social media and the ability to see more and learn about folks and get more comfortable because you see a little story, a little bit about their backstory and something they share with you. This kind of thing takes some of the take some of the polish or the veneer that you always walk into and you're so impressed by, and then it just shows the human side. You know what I mean? You want to know that you're dealing with people that are just like you.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I've kind of talked to Taylor. So Taylor has recently gone out on her own, and she is starting her own company. And there's a lot that goes behind the scenes that she's having to do on her own, whether it be her own social media presence, whether it be getting investors. How do you organize that? How do you even understand how that concept works? There are a lot of different layers that go into it. And, I just kind of see her as one of those people that are juggling being a mom and trying to have their American dream of having their own company. And so we've been able to work with people like Taylor to go and kind of help her. And here's some of the resources. And it's not all pretty. It's not pretty. It's ugly. Every bit of it is ugly. And people want to be like, be your own company.
Right.
And that's it. It is horrible.
Yeah. Talk about fear factor.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the fear factor.
I'd rather have snakes done me than have
I
it
honestly
scary.
feel like the Mommy Sharks, and I'm so happy to be a part of it. It's helping women and mothers to step into their power and know that you're not alone. And the reality is, as Michelle mentioned, it isn't all beautiful. And that's not what's relatable. And somebody asked me recently, they said, why are we less happy, right? If we have more as a country, why are we less happy? And I said, honestly, I think that it's because we spend more time scrolling through the lives of others than we do focused on our own.
It makes sense. I can see how you score points immediately because everyone's like so embarrassed by their own personal circumstance.
Yep.
Okay, so I have this, she mentioned a stain on your shirt, you show up your tie, whatever it might be, and how did this happen? If that makes you more human,
Yep.
if that's a sellable concept rather than an embarrassing thing, boy, that's empowering.
Yeah, it is.
So
It's
that's the
extremely
whole
empowering.
idea. So as you can see, Michelle has thought of this from the front and the back. So let's see if we can get some snakes and some spiders dumped on these young ladies. What do they have to do? What does Tampa Bay have to do to get this done?
So basically, you go on TampaBayFearFactor.com, and you can donate between either Taylor or myself, and whoever raises the most amount of money between now and May is going to have, whatever it is that our fear is done. And we're willing to take on that fear in exchange of going and getting donations and hopefully saving the lives of other people with cancer, because we don't want any more people to have to die from this disease.
When you click on the donation tab as well, it'll give you options if you want to donate, custom a couple of bucks to 100 to, a couple thousand. Corporate sponsors really would be amazing. Corporate sponsors in the Tampa Bay area stepping up. For $5,000, they get an entire table of 10 at the event, advertising for their company, and they're doing something amazing. They get to go to a black tie event. That'll be a really fun night, an emotional and fun, a human night.
Right.
They'll have a human experience, and so will we.
Great concept, and a way that you can get involved and do something positive, like we always talk about here. Stay with us when we come back on the other side. More from Doug Arvanitis, Pro Health. We're going to have the girls talk a little bit more about some of the things they're involved with, and again, we're always trying to do something positive. You can see this. The show is all about that. Come on back and talk to us. Consumer Quarterback Show, consumerqb.com. Hey,
This is the Cannabis Podcast, powered by True Leaf on Radio Influence. It's an inside look and the scientific facts in and around the world of medical cannabis. Now, here is your host, Ian Beckles.
He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. Listening to the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, online at consumerqb.com. Brandon is Tampa Bay's #1 consumer advocate for real estate and financial advice. Call Brandon today at 813-670-7372.
Welcome back. This is the Consumer Quarterback Show with Brandon Rhymes. My name is James DeJerome. I'm sitting in for Brandon today. We've got a great panel of guests here today. We've been discussing everything from fear factor to sports injuries, and we want to provide you with that information that's going to keep you informed and make you a better consumer out there. In addition, we always tell you something positive here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, and we're going to do that as well coming up in our section, our feel-good segment of the day. I want to go back to Dr. Doug and talk a little bit about injuries and getting to a common place where people accept that you're hurt. You know, there's that fine line where kids don't want to admit that they're hurt, or the parents are overprotective of someone that might be hurt. When you have a parent bringing a kid in, have you ever had issues with the kid saying, "I'm fine," and the parents say he took a fall or something like that? I think it'd be difficult to work with young people sometimes because they're not telling you the full scope of what has occurred.
Well, that happens all the time. And what I like to do is I sometimes like to separate the parents from the kid so that I can really find out what's going on.
Right.
And it just depends because, like my father was the type that said, no matter what, you don't stay down on that field. You get up, you get to the sideline. You're not injured until you get home.
Right.
And he always wanted to hide that from everybody. And, you know, kids nowadays, you have two types. You have the parents that are trying to do the same thing as my dad did, or you have the kid who just won't stay out of the game. Sometimes it's good to have both in there, but then when I can get that child alone and really start talking to him, and you know
that one-on-one,
and so that I fully understand, he knows that I understand, that I'm not going to tell the parents everything, and let's just see what's going on. Then that's
a critical part for me with sports injury, is knowing that the attending physician or doc has had a little bit of a background in it, so I'm not just looking as a regular patient. I want to be seen as an athlete who got hurt in sports competition, so it makes more sense to him how I got here.
Right, it does. And an athlete knows another athlete, plain and simple. You can't sit there and have a child understand, or any athlete understand, or realize that you understand what's going on if you never played that sport, or if you're not an athlete, or if you're extremely overweight and smoke and you're trying to tell him not to do that, or you have to have a good diet. So an athlete knows another athlete, and that's one of the reasons why I can really relate to these kids, and they can relate to me because I've been there. I've done all the sports.
You know, you touched on something that I thought was a little bit of a sensitive topic I had as a kid when I was a wrestler. When you see a kid that's overweight and that's affecting his joints, or he's got an issue with foot or ankle, whatever it might be, spine, how is that something you can cross easily with the kid? I mean, I'm wondering how kids take that.
Well, I'm pretty open with them, and I tell them right from the very beginning that I'm going to be brutally honest with them if they want help. And for the most part, the way we put it to them, I don't sit there and go, "Hey, kid, you're fat.
Right.
You need to lose weight." No. What we do is we kind of find out exactly where they are and what they need to be, and then we give them good suggestions through stories. They like to hear positive stories, again, like the show, and they can relate to that. And then, again, that's where the sports psychology part of it comes in, too. And we can really focus in with the sports psychology and get them where we need to get them.
So that whole area of sports psychology has become a huge, and everyone I know has thought of this or thought maybe I should do this. When the growth of this over the last decade or so, Doc, now it's something. Do you see it getting into youth sports as well?
I do. I have a lot of parents ask me about it, and I try to do it as much as I can with a child. But again, I don't do it like the traditional book method. I don't sit there and go, "Well, this is what we learned in a book, and this is what we're going to do to you." I find out all about that child. I find out their background. Find out a little bit from the parents, and then I try to find something that they can relate to easily, that they're going to understand what I'm trying to do with them to get them to their point.
Okay. I had nothing serious as a kid. I can imagine some kid who comes in with a broken bone, or some traumatic injury like that. How do you get them to step to rehab and push themselves a little? Because this is something we talked about before. I've seen rehabilitation takes so long because the person would not push themselves a little bit. Any pain, and they pull back. I could not say, "Hey, just do it," like I wanted to. How do you persuade or coach or get them to push themselves a little bit?
Well, and it depends on the age there. But one of the things I like to do with them is I like to use the concept of time with them, because let's say they're a junior in high school, they have one season left, and they're not pushing hard enough. I'll sit there and I'll talk to them about, look, if you may not be able to go to college and play ball if you don't do this right now. Okay, one of the biggest things that happened to me is I'll tell them, and I'll say, "You don't realize how much you love this sport until you can't ever do it again."
Sure.
Once you can't do it again, that's a tough day. When I was told I wasn't going to be playing football anymore, that was a tough day because I had that tryout set out in the NFL, and I couldn't do it according to the coaches, and I unfortunately listened to them because they weren't being very positive. But that's a big thing. I try to, like, look, I tell them to enjoy it as much as they can, do everything they can now, because you never know when that last day is going to come.
We used to talk about the pain of regret versus the pain of discipline, because that concept, this is hard and it's early and it's cold and I don't want to run, or whatever it is that's bothering you that you can't get to, you're going to have that pain and regret later if you don't do it.
You are.
And can you live with either? We got to figure out what you can live with, and that happens a lot.
And I do that with the kids, and I tell them, you don't ever want to regret that, because you can go back to college, you can do certain things, but you can never go back to high school or wherever you're at in that time, and you're never going to be able to play high school football again.
No, it's so valuable. You don't realize how much you love it. Like you said, the perspective on everything. We used to have the first team meeting, and coach would say, "You guys don't realize you're going to be gone in a blink of an eye. This is all going to go by so fast, and you'll look back and you won't even realize." And they're just bored to death. And to a man, every single kid comes back and I see them with their kid, and they're walking through the hallway of the facility. Here, this is me. Look at my picture, and it's gone like that. It's amazing.
It is. I mean, my career went so fast. And that's one of the reasons why I have such a hard time
Did you redshirt?
Did
you redshirt when your first year when you went up there? Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, I've been doing sports my entire life, and I can't stop. I took 4 years off. I retired from paintball, and I just got dragged back into it in January. So it is. And I'm 55 years old out there playing against the 20-year-olds and beating them.
Are you sure? Because I saw a kid who had this, he had scopes, the night vision, the whole thing.
Wow.
Oh, I like those guys. I can shoot them out quick.
Where do you go? Are you in a field outside, or are you in an inside facility, or what do you do?
When I do the paintball, it's competition. It's outside.
Okay.
And we have tournaments. There's 5 major tournaments throughout the United States every year. And so we practice outside. We play outside.
It's a team sport.
It's a team sport.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not familiar with
Sponsors.
it. How bad does it hurt when you get hit with one of those things?
Well, if you're using tournament paint, it's not bad because it's very soft and brittle. I want that to hit. If it touches your jersey, anything, I want it to hit and break.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Now you're out.
Right.
So the rec ball type of ball, those are hard. They're made to go through leaves and branches and things like that. Those hurt.
Mark.
Ours don't hurt that much.
This came on later. I missed this as a kid. I didn't get to do this.
I didn't do it as a kid. I did
right.
it. I started when I was 35.
So you got shot a bunch before you got good at this, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah, but the very first thing I learned from someone who knew way more than I did was, we're going to teach you how to not get shot first. Then we're going to teach you how to shoot.
Ladies, a fear factor possibility yet? The paintball, maybe?
That'd be if I win in a paintball tournament, then you have to do fear.
I don't know. My strategy would just be wear a lot of padding.
You're shooting each other, and there's a loser.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be as agile.
No.
I'm not agile anyway, so it doesn't matter.
You'd just be sitting there.
I just have pillows just stuffed in my
You'd
clothes.
have 2 guns, 2 paintball guns.
I'm a terrible shot. My son's better at shooting than I am, which is terrible. He's 3, and he's got better aim than I do.
I don't have good hand-eye
I
coordination.
don't either. I'm terrible.
All right. Well, what else? Doc, did you come up with anything? I got a concept I'm going to lay out here for the fear factor thing. Anything from your job or anything that you see athletes go through that you think this might make a good torture or pain for these ladies?
I think they're doing it quite well on their own.
Do you want to volunteer?
No, I don't
put him on the spot.
I don't have any fear of anything. So
he's no scared.
He has no fear.
No.
It's that positive mindset
Just
that
fear.
brings no fear.
I'm not scared of snakes.
No, I'm afraid of heights. So that's not a good one.
What if your fear of volunteering?
You could
I
fall
get that
off
sometimes.
the side
Yeah.
of the building.
Overcommitting. I have a fear of overcommitting.
All right, so
Awesome.
Consumer Quarterback Show. We got Dr. Doug Arvanitis from Pro Health and Michelle Frome and Taylor's in here, and we're talking about all the different things that are coming up in our city here. But Fear Factor is an opportunity for you to get involved, raise some money for a great cause, and one that's going to affect everyone. Everyone has been touched in some way, unfortunately, by cancer. So let's do as much as we can as a group. We have this concept you said is relatively new, but you've been doing this for a couple of years. What else have you seen floated as an idea to assist in fundraising for something like this?
I mean, a lot of people try to go event heavy, and so they'll do charity golf tournaments. They'll just do like a wind down Wednesday. They
Event
will go,
buses.
Yeah,
where
they'll
you have to pay a
just.
ticket.
I mean, there's some stuff with some exotic dancers and their buses.
Okay, so there's
my
the creative
goodness.
side.
They get very creative. We had a few car washes that got a little eccentric with some dancers.
I see a common theme here.
Yeah.
There was a car wash that happened last weekend that did not go as well as we had hoped, so we resorted to panhandling, which was terrible, but it actually made more money than the car wash, so you never know what's
For a good
work.
cause, folks.
We'll do anything for a good cause.
Anything to give money. I mean, so at a lot of the events, they have the man or the boy and girl of the year, and these are little kids that are actually going through chemo right now that need help, and so sometimes they make appearances, but they can't come out because they had a chemo treatment that week and they're too sick. So it just kind of is a big reality check as to why we're out there with our signs going, please give us money.
Yeah, it keeps you humble.
It does. It is really good because I have the same. I have a 3-year-old, little boy and a 7-year-old daughter, and just the idea of having to go through that with them is devastating. So
that's the perspective you need to keep. We're not trying to bring you down, but you need to be aware that you can help folks out there, and there's plenty of folks that need help that don't ask. They just don't feel like asking. They're just not comfortable asking. Right. And if you don't take the first step to initiate doing something positive for them, they'll just suffer in silence. And we don't want that. We want to contribute and have everybody team up a little bit if we can and try to bring positivity to the whole community. We're going to come back on that note and tell you a little bit of something positive that I found that keeps in line with Brandon and the rest of the show. So stay with us. Consumer Quarterback Show, consumerqb.com. We're going to wrap it up when we come back.
This is Warwick Dunn, and you're listening to the Real Estate Quarterback Show hosted by my man, Brandon Rhymes.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com.
House or condo?
This is the Cannabis Podcast, powered by True Leaf on Radio Influence. It's an inside look and the scientific facts in and around the world of medical cannabis. Now, here is your host, Ian Beckles.
He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. Listening to the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. Online at consumerqb.com.
Welcome back. This is the Consumer Quarterback Show with Brandon Rhymes. We've been talking today a little bit about sports injuries and marketing, and also about some events that are coming up in the Bay Area and ways that you can help out and be a positive part of your community. To that note, we found a story here about a mom who has a child that has autism, and this hit home for me because I think a lot about our society today. We emphasize bullying, and we talk a lot about kids that are getting pressured, even through social media, not necessarily just the old playground kind of bullying, but the stuff that goes on in the cyberspace. It's not great, and parents have a real need to watch over their kids. So this mom used to take her child out to a park, and she wanted to make sure he was okay. So a group of teenagers in South Brunswick, New Jersey, taught a 5-year-old boy with autism how to ride a skateboard on his birthday. The boy's mother, Kristen, shared a video on Facebook and wrote the following: "Today's my son's 5th birthday. He has high-functioning autism and ADHD. You would never know by looking at him that anything was going on. You also wouldn't know that a woman with US was his behavioral therapist. We went to the park behind the police station. He was on the skate park, the scooter, and some of the other older kids showed up. They were amazing with him. They took the time to spend time with them, and so it brought me to tears." And she says, "I caught a video of them singing to my son. One of the kids gave him a mini skateboard, taught him how to use it. I can't even begin to thank these kids for being so kind and showing him how wonderful people can be to complete strangers. I bought them all ice cream and said thank you, but it wasn't enough. Thank you to whoever these children are, and thank you to the parents because you're doing a wonderful job." Now, I wanted to talk about that just a little bit because this is someone who's watching out for their kid and certainly would do everything they could for that child, but you can't control society sometimes. And so the fact that she was concerned, and then it just showed there's people out there that are kind of on the same theme as the show here, looking to do the best thing they can. And so there's good in everyone out there. I want to encourage that a little bit. And Doc, any stories that occur to you, like you see a helping hand, or anyone you want to mention as being somebody positive in the community, or someone that you've seen do good work that should be recognized for that?
You know what? I'm going to say my son, Nico. He's just like that. If he sees a child that has any type of disability whatsoever, he's the first one over there. He's got the biggest heart in the world, and he will do anything he can to help that child out.
I'll tell you, it's something that, it's so heartwarming to see that. And it's sometimes you think it's innate, or it's the parents. You don't never know exactly what has put that in somebody. But if it's in you, boy, it's great to see that come out. And it inspires that positivity that we talk about, taking the first step or paying it forward.
It does.
Yep. Yeah. I read something recently on social media that said, it was from a mother, and she said, "I don't care if my kid's the goth. I don't care if my kid's the cheerleader or the football player or the quiet kid in class. All I care about is if my kid's the kind kid.
Right.
Is my kid kind?" And I think that goes for all human beings. We really have to be kinder to each other, more patient in traffic, keeping perspective, and staying grounded.
Yeah, I agree. I get frustrated when I think about someone be able to create divisiveness in our society by sending an ad on a Facebook page or something like that. The fact that someone would attempt to manipulate your feelings or try to do that, and that everyone would be so gullible as to jump in and get angry about something that really is an anonymous something that doesn't really apply to you in your life, Right. So I always try to be for something rather than against something. Yes. It's a lot easier to be negative and say I don't like that or I don't like that. It's harder to find something positive out there and highlight that, I think.
Yeah. It's not it's not what's happening, it's how you react, right?
Yeah.
That's what you can control, is your
100%.
response.
100%. That applies. That's a lesson that you learn in sports. I did as well, Doc. Didn't mean to get so heavy here, but I wanted to give you an opportunity before we wrap up the show to talk a little bit about your business. Anything that out there that you think that folks could benefit by Pro Health, or what do they not know about Pro Health that they could take advantage of?
Well, we don't just see professional athletes, but we will treat every one of our patients as a professional athlete. So no matter what's going on with them, we apply everything that we do to them, to the athletes, to the patient. So we're going to look at them from head to toe. We're going to look at their whole history. We're going to look at them psychologically to see if we can help them get wherever they need to be. So we're completely different. We're not just a chiropractic office, not just a massage therapist. We do all of that. We do personal injury. We do everything. But we also tailor everything to that individual.
It's got to be that way, right?
It has to be.
These idea that a single treatment or a single therapy is going to be widely. I mean, unfortunately, when I was a kid, I told you the story before. Ice and stim is all. It was ice and stim for everything. So you got stabbed, someone gave you an ice bag.
At least you got stim. All I got was ice.
Right?
He's like frozen meat.
Even that's come a long way. But what about the therapy you had mentioned that temperature change sometimes is positive, hot and cold?
The hot and cold, the contrast, yes. Because then that way you're affecting the muscles and the circulatory system a little bit more, and you can get more healing properties to that. Same thing with our Class 4 laser. One of the reasons why I was walking and able to get right back to the office on Monday and nobody could tell was the fact that we had that class 4 laser going Saturday and Sunday, and it reduced the inflammation, helps the tissues heal 2 to 3 times faster.
Really?
And it's fantastic.
That inflammation is all about, that's where your range of motion is restricted, right? I mean, that's what it's all about.
Right. And you don't have to do a class 4 laser. You just contact me. We'll get you that recipe for that anti-inflammatory drink. It's wonderful, and it works. Anybody who's been in my office, they know because they see me walking around with no problems.
That leads us right into product placement. We talked about branding a lot. Luckily, Michelle is here, and she's got all the stuff that I haven't even considered as far as branding goes. I know what I see that. I know what that is, and I don't even know why I picked that brand. It's already working on me. In other words, I'm already controlled by the brander. You've got me. What can folks out there do? Give us some tips or anything that folks may help their business or try to promote their brand a little bit.
There's a couple of different things that you can do. Mostly you just want to differentiate yourself. So we work with a lot of restaurants, for example, and everybody wants to be known for great service, great food. Everybody has that. So what exactly is it that's going to make yours different and stand out? And you really have to think outside the box. So a couple of things that we have a couple of restaurants that are from the 1920s, and they do have ghost experiences. So we're working with paranormal investigators to come in, and they'll get a certificate that they're haunted.
I didn't see that coming.
There's a huge market for haunted wedding venues. It's a big thing. So just kind of thinking outside the box is just really good, and that's what we do for our clients. Is we were known to make small businesses famous, and it's mostly just, you're going up against these really strong brands. So what is it that you bring to the table that is going to make you different? The other thing that we do is we don't just build a big brand for later, but we also need leads now. A lot of those clients need revenue now. You have a retail store and you need clients now plus for later. So we have different things that we can go and kind of help you guys get the phones ringing, get appointments set while we're also building that brand for later. So for example, some people, businesses pay for leads, and they can pay up to $350 per lead.
Yes.
And if they don't answer the email or the phone call that you guys do, you just wasted $350. So we actually have tactics to where we can go and we can get your brand in front of these people while you're waiting on them to answer the phone call. So if you guys have ever gone to a website and then suddenly on social media and on Google you feel like you're stalked because you see all of these different ads for that same brand, that's what we're doing. So we're able to go and create these ads based on phone numbers and email addresses and different things that we know that you've paid for these leads, and go and actually make sure that even if they go to your website, you're not wasting money for those leads because we're capturing them later. So
very specific strategy out there. And sometimes we talk about folks out there that think they have a marketing plan because they're on social media, or they've got a Facebook page or they've got an Instagram, whatever they're doing. What are some of the pitfalls where people think, oh, well, I'm doing it already?
Social media is so time intensive, and it takes so many hours to create the perfect picture and the perfect caption, and they just feel like, oh, I have a social media page, why are the clients not coming? And it's not just that. I mean, you have to go and hit them from a variety of traditional and digital methods to where everywhere they go they see your brand. And it you can't just go and post a couple pictures and expect that that's going to work. Sometimes it does, and that's lucky, but that doesn't mean that that's how it's going to work. So you have to, with your social media strategy and your overall marketing strategy, as to here are all the different places that we're going to hit your customer with the same consistent messaging, and you have to have things that are going to generate revenue right now while you're generating revenue for later. And just having a Facebook page is not going to go and get people into your office and spending money.
Now, you talked about differentiating, and I could see that as being a critical, that's what it's really about. Getting that initial eyes, getting those eyes and ears initially. Then it's on you to keep them, or to get the message you need to get across. I just am fascinated by the concepts of being different and coming out of the box, because everyone says, oh, that's crazy unique. The fear factor thing really got me. I thought that was very cool. And we talked about, had some other concepts that you mentioned. When you come out of the box with something like that, do you ever have a clients go, they're initially stunned. This is not our ballpark. This is not our where we generally feel comfortable. So you have to talk them off the ledge or get them up there.
All the time. So we are actually very strategic with the clients that we take on, because we have such good results with them. So we actually want clients that are wanting to think a little bit outside the box, that are being a little bit more risky, that are willing to kind of take a risk. And, with doing that, it's actually had really good results for them. So if there's clients that just want to go and with the traditional, here's by the book, here's what we're going to do, those are not a good fit for our agency. And then we refer them out to our partners or people that we know that do those type of things.
So there you have it. We're custom tailoring it, trying to get the message specifically for your customers out there, targeting them as best we can. And again, everyone thinks social media is doing it. You got to be really specific and have a plan so that you're hitting all the right marks.
You do, and you have to be flexible. So we put together a whole strategy, a marketing strategy, and we review it every single month. And what we think is going to work amazing sometimes doesn't work at all, but there's other things that are working. So you have to be flexible enough to be able to pivot and to go with what the market is driving. So with what we thought initially works, sometimes something completely different and silly works, and that's where we put our money behind. But you have to look at what the market is saying, look at those analytics, look at those reports, and see where your money's going and if it's getting the right results. And that's what we tell our clients to do, is say, here's our plan, let's have a plan, but let's be willing to be flexible if we need to.
Great advice, great knowledge. Again, another great show. Dr. Doug Arvanitis, Pro Health, Michelle Frome, Shark Branding Solutions, Mommy Sharks, Fear Factor, Tampa Bay. Taylor, tell me everything again.
Taylor Precourt Whole Health Medical Group.
Okay. You've got a chance to check them all out on the Consumer Quarterback Show online, consumerqb.com.
You've been listening to The Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. Whether it's real estate, consumer, or financial advice, let Brandon call your next play. Contact Brandon Rhymes at 813-670-7372. That's 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com. And join us next time for The Consumer Quarterback Show, weekday afternoons at 5 on AM 1380. The Biz.
Are you a real estate agent looking to take your business to the next level and supercharge your marketing? Hi, I'm Brandon Rhymes, owner of Platinum MVP Realty and host of the Real Estate Quarterback Show, syndicated radio and TV show talk program on iHeartRadio, 1025 The Bone, daily 5 o'clock drive time on 1380 The Biz, and our TV show is on WeBeam TV. We're looking for real estate agents that want to join our team and supercharge their marketing utilizing some of our innovative strategies. We utilize the Real Geeks platform, Facebook marketing, internet marketing, and a lot of the traditional methods as well. Postcard mailers mailed for you, postage, signage, business cards, all paid for by the company. Aggressive real estate splits and ways to help you win in any marketplace. We need you to go out, take applications, and work our plethora of leads that we're generating on a daily basis. Reach out by clicking the form below, and we'd love to have a confidential interview with you.